So our last panel for the day is about collaboration and building new networks for Giving Tuesday. And I'm very excited to have some amazing panelists who can share their story about the partnerships that they created for the movement. So if you could join me in, welcoming our next guests. We have Whitney Bartels from Southwest Airlines, Asha Curran from the 92nd Street Y, Heidi Kasevich, who's the author of the Guide to Giving curriculum, and Sean King from the Downtown Allentown Arts Association. Please join me in welcoming them.
Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you, all of you, for being here. It's really been a wonderful day. I'm kind of miffed I had to go right after that presentation because I'm a little teary at the puppies. Anyway, I have had the privilege of working on Giving Tuesday since the very, very beginning. And one of the many things that has been very rewarding and just plain fun about watching it grow from just an idea have been the things that we didn't necessarily expect or the things that we didn't necessarily plant. And one of those things is just the incredible depth and breadth of collaboration, really across the spectrum of different kinds of Giving Tuesday campaigns. And one of the, I think, very special things about the movement is the incredible diversity of Giving Tuesday campaigns. But if you had to distill a common element to the most successful or the most creative ones, it really is the level of collaboration. And I would even go further to say really joyful collaboration. There's a real sense of fun and imagination and partnership and on all of that to the kind of collaborations we see across civic campaigns, global campaigns, corporate, nonprofit, foundation. So our friends here today have some of the campaigns that are most emblematic of that fact. And I'll also say that the collaboration is really something that has come from the Giving Tuesday community, not from us, just as so much of it, most of it really has come from the community itself. So I thought we would start just by having each one of you give an overview of where you are, what you've done with the movement in this past year or even before that, and what your campaign consisted of, and then, or your contribution, and how that's going to change if it is this coming year. Okay. Want to start with you, Sean?
Oh, sure. Want to thank everybody for coming here today and actually for inviting me to be a part. I feel like I've been called home to the mothership, so this is good. All the great ideas and the interactions I've had throughout the day have been really super. I actually to give a little bit of context to what's going on in Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's a city that had kind of fallen on some hard times, but about $1 billion worth of reinvestment and revitalization is going on, and I'm the director of marketing for one of 7 arts organizations within the downtown Allentown area. So we were kind of tasked now it's about 15 months ago, to get the arts organizations to work together and collaborate, go do art. So we started some conversations between the seven organizations to see how we could do things jointly. There have been a lot of silos between the Symphony and the Art Museum and a couple of the other organizations. So read about Baltimore and the excitement that was going on there. Was inspired by what was happening there. So we had a huge community celebration with all the arts organizations, and as we were wrapping up planning for that, I had grabbed the ear of the art museum CEO and said, hey, there's this Giving Tuesday thing, and I think we should look at it as an opportunity, almost as a public relations campaign. And if we could get out in front of it, the area is about 600,000 people, so it's kind of a small to mid-size region. And we thought that we could kind of corner the market on Giving Tuesday. There wasn't a lot of action or activity going on. So we wanted to be the thing that people thought of when they heard about Giving Tuesday. So what I'm most proud about is a lot of the ideas that kind of made their way up to the board today. We tried, and there's a lot of successes and there's a lot of failures. I wrote a blog piece, and actually it was on Kivy LaRue Miller's website. And actually I just tweeted it again. It's 7 takeaways from Giving Tuesday. So if you want to check that out, there's a couple of things there that might help. But what we were able to do is kind of check everybody's ego at the door. We had small organizations, $250,000 a year budget, up to $10 million budget, kind of come together, and the group understood that, well, this isn't really going to be about making money. It's going to be about cooperation and collaboration, and kind of sticking a flag in the ground for the arts organizations. Not to say anything negative about everything else, but we obviously had a mission to kind of follow about. So we tried the mobile giving. We went to text to give and got that set up. There's a lot of stuff in the weeds that you have to, when you're doing a collaboration, there's laws and things like that you have to, when nonprofits are collaborating on making, working on such things. But we set up a platform that was 7 organizations, pushed out.
And you hadn't previously worked together?
No. We did a community piece, community event, but that was kind of a next one in the step of where we were working together. So what we were able to do is allow donors to choose one of any of the 7 organizations and earmark their money, or they could choose to donate to all 7 together. Reached out to the business community, and rather than saying, hey, commit to us or donate to this, which again, I had mentioned earlier, there are some pitfalls, some landmines there that you have to watch. We just asked them to push out the Giving Tuesday, knowing that we were trying to ride that wave, and we worked with the local restaurateurs to do the evening of December 2nd, I think it was, a cocktail. So proceeds from those cocktails all went, and we got a donation from each one of those restaurants, and we've planted the seed for the Giving Tuesday Teeny. So yes. I've copyrighted that. We're working on that with one of the master mixologists downtown Allentown. What was also interesting is somebody said, like start a bash, get something big. It just so happened that we have opened a 10,000 seat arena, and Cher was supposed to perform on site on December 2nd. It kind of like fell right into our lap. Unfortunately, she postponed. So we had a lot of things like table tents in the restaurants with the Giving Tuesday, and the text to give, which was a number that you could donate $10 with a simple text. I think it was text art to 50 or something or other. But it was just kind of working all of those angles, however we best could get the message out using the play of regular media. So it's not just about the social media. That's good, but getting people, and there's a lot of people sitting on board of directors that don't know how to tweet, and that's a whole demographic. Yeah, there's a demographic there that we're working on for this year. So I just wanted to check my notes, make sure I got everything. So yeah, I think maybe like 5 of those things on the board we tried. Some succeeded, some not so much, but we're really inspired. And as I said, it was basically a public relations campaign, but when we wrapped it up at the end, it was a public relations campaign that paid us, because we did wind up making some money at the end. And one other thing we did, and I totally had forgotten about it until we were brainstorming before, we did Thank You Thursday. So everybody who had donated on Tuesday, we had to subdivide everything out and make sure that everyone who had donated got the love.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
that's a really important part of it.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate what you said about having an actual event, and John McPhee was talking about that earlier as well, the traditional media piece is very important, and we're constantly getting calls here at Giving Tuesday Central for events that we can push the media to. They really want something to film, so that's just something I would recommend for those of you that have that possibility. So Heidi, in terms of your work with Nightingale Bamford and with kids, you talk about what you've done in the past and what you have in mind for this year.
Sure, yeah, I'm really excited to share what happened last year. So as an educator, I heeded Kate Sheridan's call last year, which was to produce a curriculum to implement in schools about Giving Tuesday. My task was to really cultivate a genuine sense of commitment to service in my students and to prepare them for Giving Tuesday. So I was really excited about that. I still am. I saw great potential for building leaders of the 21st century who are caring, committed, and civically minded. And so to that end, the curriculum, which is currently available on the 92nd Street Y website, there are 9 lessons, and they are adaptable to different age groups. And I highly recommend one starts in September, not in November as I did last year, because I'm still finishing the curriculum. The lessons start really on a more philosophical level, questioning sort of the how and the why we give. And I use personal reflection pieces, inspiring stories, and historical precedents. And I want to share one particularly useful historical precedent, which had a great impact on my life. I'm probably betraying my age here, but it was those Live Aid concerts in 1985. How many of you remember those? But you can draw so many lessons for the students, which I think are incredibly important. Think about the theme song, "We Are the World." We want our next generation to embrace the notion that they are citizens of humanity. And that idea that change can only come about when we come together as one is really powerful. And that song just resonates with children of all ages. Secondly, it might be interesting for you to know that the average donation in 1985 for, as a result of those concerts, particularly in London and in Philadelphia, which raised over $50 million, the average donation was actually $40. And I find it really interesting that it was the Republic of Ireland, which was facing deep recession at the time, that actually came in as the #1, sort of the winner giving the most money. Students today grapple with this notion of, well, what can I do? I'm just an individual who doesn't have any money, and what can I do? I'm not powerful enough. Well, in fact, you are powerful. And that brings me to the third point, just connected with those Live Aid concerts, which was that the world was really was coming together as one, and that it was the donations of time and talent which were to raise the treasure. And that's what the students really took that challenge of doing. And I watched as things unfolded. They were being taught about choosing a cause, raising awareness about the cause, leveraging their time and their talent to raise the treasure. I watched them come to me. They became leaders. And I ended up calling them the social justice ambassadors. It's interesting that that word has come up already today. They were ambassadors, and they were organizing events for our community partners. We had chosen the alleviation of poverty as our goal, the lower school, and here's where the real collaboration piece came in. Giving Tuesday, in a very unique way, was able to knit the divisions together in a K-12 school. The lower schools worked on alleviating and learning about hunger in New York City, so poverty and its manifestation of hunger. Middle school, they took on the cause of illiteracy in the developing world, and the upper school was the refugee crisis, which, as you know, is an enormous problem that the world faces today. And
they chose those causes, right? That came from them?
This came from the students, and they really embraced it. I have to say, with a little bit of extra leveraging from us, because it was the first year. Mm-hmm. Ideally, the next year, they have more and more ownership of it. I mean, this is really the key part, that the students have the ownership. And then thinking about the event, it was, not only was it sort of thrilling for me to watch them develop as leaders and take on service as a really meaningful activity and not just sort of checking a box, oh, I did X amount of hours for community service, which can happen. But we get to plan for the big event. And the big event is certainly going to become a ritual at the Nightingale Bamford School. It was a beautiful, very moving all-school assembly. And student speakers addressed a large audience about what they had learned about the meaning of service, how their lives were transformed, how they felt the sense of interconnectedness with humanity. And I billed it as sort of the biggest and best birthday celebration of the year. And that idea really resonates with kids, right? Everyone's giving everyone a gift. And so I just want to end, as you can probably tell, I'm a big fan of Giving Tuesday. I think in terms of collaboration, we've got a lot of potential out there to build networks of schools around the globe, locally, nationally, internationally, public-private partnerships. I think bringing our students together around the notion of giving is incredibly important for educators and really for our next generation.
And would you share what one of the students had to say?
Yes. So in one of our student publications, there's a Giving Tuesday article, and I just wanted to share these words. Rippling into the future will be a generation of girls who understand that it is important to recognize our privilege and give back to those who have less. Girls who have seen such generosity modeled year after year through Giving Tuesday at Nightingale. Girls who will fulfill their roles as citizens of the world. Involvement in the national movement, or we could say global, is vital to achieving our mission of educating both the hearts and the minds of girls who will become strong, independent women affecting positive change. So
beautiful.
That was really lovely.
So we have arts organizations, and we have academia, and now we're going to hear a little bit about collaboration from the corporate perspective. So Whitney, what do you?
Sure. So this past year was actually Southwest's first year to get involved with Giving Tuesday, and we've followed the movement for about a year or two, and this year really decided to jump in. And we're a company that really prides ourselves on giving back and being a good neighbor in the communities where we serve, and so this was just a natural fit for our brand. In fact, I think if you have a global giving day, I think our employees and our customers kind of expect us to jump in, and so we knew that we wanted to do something above and beyond what we were already doing. So we made a commitment of $25,000, and we chose 10 organizations to give to, and so each of those organizations received a grant of $2,500. And these were organizations that we were already partnering with, had already established relationships with, but we intentionally chose organizations that weren't our big nonprofit partners, because $2,500 might not mean as much to a big nonprofit as it would to some of our smaller
and a
ones.
very eclectic group of nonprofits too.
Yeah, that was
totally
really our goal. Is these are nonprofits that we don't talk about as much, but they're nonprofits that we believe in, and so we really structured our social campaign around highlighting these organizations and making sure that we drove traffic to their social media pages, to their websites, and ultimately we just wanted to tell a story about giving back and hopefully inspire others to join in the movement as well. Our goal wasn't to make it so much about Southwest, but really highlighting organizations and nonprofits on the ground that we believe in.
And do you think you'll do the same sort of thing this year?
Good question. We haven't decided yet. I know that we definitely have plans to jump in and to participate again this year. And for Southwest, we have about 4 different strategic giving pillars, and it makes sense for us to align our Giving Tuesday strategy with the pre-existing corporate giving strategy that we already have in place. So I know that we'll probably do something in line with those pillars, but we haven't yet decided what that is. So it's fun being here and kind of hearing all the different ideas that y'all are giving insight into for next year.
Would you consider using employees in the decision-making process about which charities to give to?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yes, we would love to hear kind of employee feedback about what matters to them, and we have a number of different initiatives in place at Southwest that really allows our employees to be rewarded for their volunteerism and for their efforts with different local nonprofits. And so I like that idea. I also like the idea of kind of encouraging our employees to give their time and also their donations on Giving Tuesday as well. We're big on volunteerism, and I think that's something that we can easily partner with.
Okay, so we're going to have to do a little lightning round, but I'm curious, I'm going to ask you each to just quickly address a 2-part question, which is there a specific, since we're all friends and we're here in the spirit of helping everybody, was there any particular challenge that you faced that you could just say quickly, sort of give everybody a little bit of advice if they do the same? And then the second part is, what should people be thinking about now to ensure a successful campaign in 6 months? So 30 seconds each.
Beware of development directors carrying pitchforks. Everyone has their goals. It's all set up and it's ready to go. So what we tried to do in positioning it and everybody to stay calm was, if they were already ramping up for their end of year or their holiday campaign or whatever they called it, we used this as the launch pad, which again, I think was one of the recommendations. So I would say, and make sure that everybody checks the ego at the door. You know, you're going to have a lot of players. I wouldn't suggest going more than 7. That might get unwieldy. But, you know, the little guys are going to just be happy to be at the table, and the big guys need to look the other way and go, this is for the greater good. This is for something bigger than just ourselves. And that, you know, whether it's arts or whether it's, you know, social or however anyone kind of works together in a group of like organizations, that would be my advice. And just get started now. 6 months goes by like that.
Great advice.
It's interesting that the name of the publication from which I read earlier is called Time Regained. That's exactly what you need in schools. You need time. Everyone's overscheduled. The students are overscheduled. The faculty is overscheduled. So how do you make room in your day for philanthropy classes, you know, for Giving Tuesday classes, for having that extra time to engage in the fundraising activities, even having those brainstorming sessions. Everyone is overscheduled. So that is the greatest challenge. In planning, you need to plan, as most schools do, in the spring for what's going to happen in the fall. And you want to hit the ground running in September with the Giving Tuesday initiative, because you want that buy-in. You want everyone's buy-in. And the danger, you know, if you don't really sort of take the time, is that somehow the Giving Tuesday, despite, you know, all your efforts, might come across as, oh, these are just students writing checks, or they're not taking it seriously. And you want to convey that to your entire community, that this is a transformative moment, and there is a shift in the culture of giving in your school and in the mindset of your students that can occur around this day of giving, which is incredibly exciting. But it takes time.
Well, I guess our challenges are a little bit different, but coming from a company that's inundated with hundreds and hundreds of donation requests on a daily basis, we had the challenge of convincing our leaders that this one is worth investing in. And so that was kind of probably our challenge at the beginning of late last year, was that convincing our company and our leadership that this movement was greater and worth us investing extra on top of what we're already donating to organizations. And so that was probably our biggest challenge. I would say what to start doing now is to figure out the story that you want to tell. For Southwest, I think I said this earlier, but we didn't want Giving Tuesday to be about our brand. I think it made sense for our brand, and it's a part of what Southwest stands for, but we really wanted it to be about the organizations, and that can be tricky to do when you're communicating about it in traditional and social media. But I think deciding now what that story is, what that impact is that you want to make, and then you have the next 6 months to work towards that.
Excellent advice. I would encourage you guys to also come up and find these guys at our cocktail hour and certainly ask more questions, because I think there's probably a lot more to be said. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.